This is Castle Crashers for Steam, made in part by the guy who's responsible for Newgrounds. See that guy right there? Tom Volpe? Yeah, it's his fault, blame him. But in all seriousness, Castle Crashers is a great beat-em-up. You can play it either single-player or multiplayer. I'm going to be playing single-player today, though. So, one thing about Castle Crashers is, there are a lot of unlockable characters. I'm going to be playing as this guy, the Fire Demon. I call him Crag. You unlock him by beating the game as the Orange Knight, who's one of the default characters. And it looks like Crag's just rocking out some pretty sweet tunes at a great party. Oh dear. Oh, that's unfortunate. Ah well, it's nothing we need to concern ourselves about. Let's just get back to partying? Guys, what about you? You gonna... Oh, he's just gonna hide. Okay, well... The music's still going, but yeah, the party's kinda dead now. That's a shame. It was looking pretty fun, but guess Crag's gotta go now. So, we've got a few tutorial guys down here. This woman's going to tell us about animal orbs. Not too useful at the moment because we don't have any animal orbs at all. This guy over here is going to tell us about items and also give us a potion. You can carry up to 5 potions at a time, and they heal you, of course. The thing about potions is, in multiplayer, if you die, they act like rations in Metal Gear Solid, in that you'll be revived automatically. In single player, that doesn't happen. You run out of health, you're dead, even if you have extra potions equipped. This lady's going to tell us about magic, which, by the way, one of the few differences between each character is their magic, and the community apparently ranks characters based on their magic. Crag here is apparently pretty high ranked, like S or something. But me personally, magic is okay, it can help. But Crag, of course, he prefers good old brute force, because why wouldn't he? Well, time to leave. Was this the jerk responsible for ruining the entire party? Looks like he's murdered a whole lot of people as well, so there goes that plan. And now he's just riding off with the crystal like it was no thing, and riding off on the crystal as well. And now the king's sending Crag out to do his dirty work for him. How rude. He is a guest here. And now it's time to take care of some barbarians. These guys aren't too tough. They won't use any magic, and in fact they just fire arrows at you, which I guess can interrupt you if you're like me and you really like your aerial combos. But they're not too bad. I also thought those weapons were ones that gave you, or gave them critical attacks rather, but no, I'm the one with critical attacks. They don't have them. By the way, you probably noticed the critical attack, because whenever they occur, you just see the word crit with a skull next to it, so it's pretty obvious. That, of course, will do a lot of extra damage, so hey, it helps oftentimes to be able to do critical shots. And now the barbarians are kidnapping the princesses. Now that's just rude, especially that guy in the back. Seriously, no respect at all. So, of course, it's definitely worth noting that we are getting experience for this. However, each enemy does not have an experience value or anything like that. In fact, you actually get 1 experience per hit you get off the enemy. So basically, you want to do as many hits as you possibly can, because overkill damage does not count towards experience. Every time you level up, you can increase your stats, and strength is one of the stats you can increase. Oftentimes, people don't actually like increasing strength just because the more hits you can get in on the enemy without killing them, the more experience you get, so it does make sense to keep your strength low. But again, that's not how Crag rolls. Ooh, and he also got a bit of meat. Meat is one of the best health items in the game aside from potions. Of course, enemies can't drop potions, you can only buy them. But nonetheless, meat is very good. It'll recover almost all of your health, and speaking of recovering all your health, leveling up will do that as well. So if you can time your level ups well, they can really save your life. Especially in single player, because again, potions will not revive you. And before we head off, we can actually buy some stuff. I'm just going to buy this potion right here, since I can't really get much else, and potions are helpful. Now, we can actually continue once... Oh, wait, first we have to level up. I'll explain stats in a little while. But first, we go back to the map, and we have access to the blacksmith area. Now, there are 2 different things you can do here. First off, you can equip those animal orbs. Let's go do that, since we don't have any of those just yet. So the nurse here will tell you what your animal orb does, and I've got almost all of them unlocked. Not all of them, though. So we got a whole bunch of them available. And I'm gonna be kinda cheap, and I'm gonna go with the one that's really helpful at the start of the game. I'm gonna go for Giraffe, who ups the amount of experience you get by 0.1. Yes, every time you hit an enemy you get 1.1 experience instead of just 1, which, considering the fact that you do hit enemies a lot of times, it's more useful than it sounds, at least for a starting character. Of course, later on, you're probably going to want to equip a different animal orb just because Giraffe here won't be useful forever. But anyway, here you have your weapon cache. Like animal orbs, this stores all the weapons you get across all characters through the entire game, so unless you reset your entire data, yeah, you'll keep all your weapons forever, so that's pretty nice. But you might have noticed that there's a little red number on the bottom right of the weapon. That's what level you can equip it at, so there aren't many weapons I can really use. Unless it's level 1 or 2, which I don't think there are any level 2 weapons, yeah, I can't use it. It also shows you what stats you can equip, and sometimes a little bonus effect. The skull means you get a critical shot. There's also flames, which indicate that you can set things on fire. And there are a few other status effects, such as poison or freezing or electricity, but none of that's too important. I did switch weapons for the time being, because we're gonna head out into the Barbarian War, so this is more of the first real stage of the game. So let's explain stats, shall we? First one is strength. As said before, it can be a bit of a detriment, but of course, having higher strength does mean you kill things faster, so you might not get as much experience, but it does help speed things up a lot. Defense will increase both how little damage you take and also your health as well, so if you up defense, you'll not only make things do less damage to you, but you'll get more health overall, so that's very useful. You also have magic, which ups both how much magic you have, what magic you get actually, because you can only get new magic spells through that stat, and how quickly it recharges, because you don't need any sort of potion to recharge your magic, but you can only usually use like 2 or 3 spells every time you actually use magic. Also, your magic early on is pretty useless, so you probably won't be using it too much. It's very short-ranged and doesn't do much damage. It might have some sort of special effect, but it's not terribly useful. Then your fourth stat is agility, which increases how quickly you move, and a certain other thing, which you will actually be getting fairly soon. Actually, you would get fairly soon if you were playing this game for the first time. You might have noticed, though, I have a few extra items other than just the potions. You don't start the game with any sort of items until you talk to that one guy, but the first time you kill those thieves, you actually get a bow, which is basically just a very handy projectile move. If you increase your agility, your arrows become stronger and fly farther, so if you're into using the bow, then that's definitely suggested. Suggested to up your agility, to be more specific. But, again, I stress the fact that Crag is just into a good old-fashioned pummeling. I suppose I should also mention that the thieves themselves are also special enemies. They're not too different from barbarians in that they don't really do much other than fire their bows. But there is one very annoying thing about them, and you might have noticed this, but they can actually pick things up. Like I believe back there, one of the thieves actually picked up a small golden coin. I mean, it's only worth 1 gold, so it's not a huge problem, but still, it's not something I really want. I don't want them stealing my stuff. And I'm pretty sure they can also steal food as well. I remember seeing them do that. And I'm not just saying things, I swear, so do be wary when a thief's on the field, because they might take your stuff. And here we have our first mini-boss of the game. And I just dodged that ram, but not the cannonball, so this guy's pretty easy. You'd think he'd be protected from damage when he's not doing this, but no, you always do a pretty even amount of damage to him. He's really not that difficult. Slow-moving, telegraphs his attacks, targets appear wherever a cannon's going to fire, and then it takes a long time for the cannonball to actually hit the ground. I believe, even though he summons barbarians, friendly fire is on, and in fact, that's pretty much how it is for everything except maybe basic attacks in this game. If an enemy does something special, chances are it can also hurt other enemies as well. But of course, I want to do the most damage to the enemies, because that gets me experience and also pleasure. Crag certainly likes smashing things. See, things exploding because Crag just smashed it that hard. And all the other barbarians just auto-die. So you might notice that I really rely on aerial combos. I mean, there's no reason not to, I suppose. You can fight on the ground, and that does do some pretty good stuff. You can shove enemies around, block attacks, and heck, you can even decapitate people no matter what weapon you're using when you're on the ground. Personally, though, I prefer juggling them like this, or juggling them in the air, because there's very little enemies can ever do against that. It does a pretty good amount of damage as well, so there's really no reason not to. Plus, it's just fun. I mean, you don't generally have to worry about enemies interrupting you. They have a few things they can do. For instance, these guys, of course, use arrows. I'm sure you've noticed by now, but they have interrupted me with those. Later on, enemies can use magic, and they can actually break out of aerial combos and then try to magic you. But then again, they can use that for ground combos as well, so it's not like it's only for aerial combat that they'll interrupt you. Personally, I just find it faster and a little bit more fun to just juggle enemies around in the air. See what happens when I stay on the ground for even 1 second? I get hit by an arrow, seriously. That's just an omen that I should never, ever be on the ground, ever. I mean, Crag has wings, right? They're functional for something. I mean, each and every character can stay in the air as long as they can, or as long as each other, really. So it doesn't matter too much, but I'm just going to point out the wings. See? Ooh, wings. So, you do actually get new physical moves for leveling up. Now this one's not really useful in combat itself, but hey, it's good for when you start a fight, just because you throw yourself at the enemy, hits him multiple times, and is all around pretty useful. I do have to say, this is a pretty cool looking area. Not the biggest fan of the music, it's decent music, but the area looks pretty cool, and well, look at that. I expected something bigger, to be honest. And there's the thing I was expecting. So, this is the first real boss of the game. The Barbarian boss is, like the first mini-boss, very easy. Not much health, very slow, very obvious attacks. And like I said before, friendly fire is on. Even his punch does something to him, as does that. And when he slams his shield into the ground, that can actually bury you, and you have to wiggle the control, whatever. Just wiggle left and right, basically, and you'll escape from the ground. But he can do the same thing to his friends as well, and this will also hurt them. Basically, just stay out of his way whenever he's doing anything, and he's really no problem at all. But you might have noticed, looks like the princesses got kidnapped while we were busy here. All but one. Ooh, oh, jeez, oh, sorry, dude. Ah, well, at least we get money, so that horrible murder that we just technically caused, yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter too much. The chest that gored him to death gives us quite a bit of money for this point in the game, so I'm happy with it. And with that, we free the princess, and she kisses us. Of course, Crag doesn't really understand the concept of kissing. He thinks she's actually trying to partake in the act of face-eating. But he also realizes she's doing it very badly, so he's kind of confused. He's taking it easy on her, so it's not like he's actually hurting her or anything, but he's just confused as to why she's so bad at face-eating and yet does it anyway. It just confounds him. Why would she do that?